Right, so I've talked quite a bit about Black Lives Matter, and the problem with Black Lives Matter is exactly what I've been bringing up all along, in that now they are calling for again. I guess the problem in a nutshell is number one, the movement is based largely on a lie, or at the very least, a half truth, in that there's this terrible systemic racism that goes on these days, which there is definitely some racism, but the reality is that it's not nearly as bad as the Black Lives Matter crowd would have you think. And the other thing to point out too is that even if it's as bad as they claim it is, their solutions to the problems, or the problems they perceive, aren't going to make the problem any better. That's the other big problem with Black Lives Matter. So um, like I brought up, I mean, first it's defund the police, now it's abolish, or not defund the police, abolish the police. Now, abolish prisons is becoming popular. Now you have this BLM organizer in Chicago saying, um, encouraging looting, anything they want, take it because these businesses have insurance. Now, again, that's a very flawed logic for many reasons. Number one, it doesn't matter if they have insurance. It's still wrong. That's like saying, oh, it's okay that I killed that person because, well, they have life insurance. Like, that's not a perfect analogy, but it is somewhat of an analogy. So again, the problem is, yeah, they have insurance, but I mean, there's many problems that come with that. Number one, if you burn down a business or loot a business to the point to where they have to go out of business, then the workers that work there no longer have a job. They are now unemployed. So that is the first problem. And not only that, a lot of those people are black people that rely on that income to feed themselves and their family. And the other problem being is that that's one less business in the area, which what's going to happen? Okay, well, blacks are going to have to go further. They're going to have to pay more to get their whatever they need. And then there's going to be, oh, this terrible racism. Black people have to travel further and pay more money. And then it's going to be, oh, more racism. And again, things are just going to continue to spiral until people finally admit that they were wrong all along. Again, so number one, it's the whole insurance thing. It doesn't justify it even in the slightest bit. And even if you want to make that argument, there's still many problems that arise that make things look very, very, very bad. Again, the first thing being is that the workers are now out of business. The second thing being, business, there's no longer a business or said business in that area. Not only that, too, what entrepreneur would want to reopen a business in said area if it just got looted? The last one that was like it just got looted. Like, why in the world would you want to do it? Again, so this is the problem. One of the many problems with Black Lives Matter is that their solutions are always going to make the problem worse. That's another one of the many reasons why anybody with half a brain needs to disagree with them. Not the concept, but the whole movement in general, and that it's no longer a racial justice movement. It has been hijacked by revolutionary communists. It's not the same thing anymore. The next thing I wanted to bring up here is from Med Bennett on Twitter, and this is California, and they point out when they had their mask mandate, and the main point being is that the cases were only trending up very slightly without a mask mandate, and then after the mask mandate, they went up quite a bit. Now, a lot of people point out, oh, the whole 2 week incubation period. Well, this is still more than 2 weeks. I mean, you pull it up here, it was put in on the 17th, and I mean, even as late as the more than a month later, the cases have still trended way up. So again, this is just another example of there being absolutely no correlation whatsoever between the whole mandatory mask garbage and a reduction in cases. There's no correlation whatsoever. Again, I brought that up with Ontario, brought it up with Alberta. And there's so many areas. Not only that, too, you look at other states like New Mexico have done this. Not to mention, too, there's plenty of other states that have no mask mandate that haven't gone way up. The reality is that the cases tend to peak pretty much the same way, pretty much no matter what humans do. This is the one thing we know about this whole virus, is that um, human policy has very little impact on it, like very little impact on it. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. And again, the other thing with the whole mask thing is that, um, again, if the government can force people to wear masks, what more can they do? Like, what more can they do? And this is the thing I was reading about yesterday on social media, and I was talking about people. Again, it was more of a far left echo chamber, so it doesn't surprise me. But there was the whole, do you guys actually know anybody who disagrees with the whole mask thing? Have you ever met anyone? And obviously, because they're in such an echo chamber, hardly anyone had. But the thing I pointed out is that, and obviously they didn't respond, but um, just 3, 4 months ago, 99% of the population literally would have had the exact opposite position. These people are literally arguing that the 99% of people went from disagreeing with something to agreeing with something literally within a matter of a few months, which is absolutely insane to suggest. Like, I don't care what it is. It can be, flat Earth. I don't care how obvious of something it can be. You're not going to change that many people's minds that quick. It's just not going to happen. So, anyway, that's another thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was kind of crazy. And again, like I said, the whole mask thing is that there's, I don't know how many times we have to say this, but there's no evidence that it works. And even if you do want to suggest that it works, the cloth masks absolutely do not work. And the medical grade masks, a lot of those are faulty. And it only makes sense if you're sick. The entirety of the scientific knowledge that we've had when it came to masks, right up until 2 months ago or 3 months ago, whenever the whole mandatory mask push started, was um, that you, unless you're sick, there's no point in using them. For decades, that was the knowledge. Now, what changed? I'd really like to see the studies that prove that there was a change. Like, I'd really like to see it. But again, no one's willing to show that because it doesn't exist. And again, this is the other thing with masks too that I've brought up for a while now, is that if we just flat out accept this whole mandatory mask garbage, then what's next? Like, seriously, what's, and I know a lot of people like to scoff with the slippery slope argument, but the slippery slope has continuously been proven true when it came to this whole situation. It was 15 days to slow the spread, and it was 3, 4 months. We still have lockdown measures. All this kind of garbage that we've been totally lied to about. So anyway, and again, this is another trend that I've seen a lot, and this is Ezra Levant responding to this guy on Instagram. And I'm not going to play the video, but it's basically of a very overweight guy getting all up in the face and all hot and bothered about someone not wearing a mask when he's literally, like, probably over 300 pounds. And Ezra Levant says he's concerned about his health, you see. And again, this is the thing too, that you see all these people that, you know, they literally could care less about their health in any other circumstance, whether it's weight, whether it's smoking, whether it's any form. Like, again, any form. But yet they're wearing a mask. Like, I see this quite a bit now when I go in public. It's like the classic, 300-pound overweight guy who's wearing a mask because it's gonna keep him safe. And I literally seen a guy, outside of a store yesterday, with the mask pulled down, having a smoke. Like, again, it's just absolute insanity that's going on. Like, absolute insanity. And again, it is a slippery slope. I guarantee you that if a vaccine is, you know, a decent vaccine is, comes through, which is unlikely, but it's possible that there will be a push to make that mandatory, and I bet you some areas will. I bet you most areas probably won't because there would be so much backlash. But I bet you some areas will. And I think it's a province to province thing. And I know Kenny's brought up that they aren't going to do it, which I really appreciate. But that's something that they better not do. Um, this is from Paul Joseph Watson. Now, again, Oprah brought up the whole white privilege garbage about a week or so ago, and I just wanted to bring it up because it's very, very insane. And I've pointed out these graphs before, but again, the highest whites are about the 10th highest earning group in the states. I mean, you got your Indians, you got your East Asians, or at the top. I think Jews are higher as well. But again, even if white privilege is a thing, I mean, number one, it isn't a thing because there's no evidence to back it up. There's no evidence whatsoever to back it up. If it was a thing, then whites should be the highest earning group. or at the very least close to it, but they're like 10th or 11th. So again, there's no evidence to back it up whatsoever, and um, anybody suggesting it is very insane. So that's the last thing I wanted to bring up. No, again, like I say, this is something I've talked about before multiple times, but again, I wanted to bring it up again because it, first of all, again, like I say, even if it is a thing, it's still racist. You're judging a group based off, you're judging individuals based off group averages, and even the most stringent of the IQ people, any of that kind of stuff, no one even advocates that. Like no one advocates that. So again, it's just insane that this kind of stuff passes these days. But like I say, it's unfortunate, but that's kind of where we're at because so many people are that insane. So anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the links that are in the description. Follow me on those other platforms and stay tuned for more.